Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good
And then,
evening.
okay.
Sir.
So, okay. Let's start the meeting for this week. Okay. And this week I will start with a human-computer interaction, and I will go at the beginning with the usability analysis. Okay. So now I would like to explain everyone when there is a term usability analysis, and then what's usability analysis in here, and what kind of level usability analysis. Okay, I hope that everyone after this class we can have a bigger, I would say, like perspective about what is usability. Okay, in here I would like to talk about the bridging the objective, subjective, and preference measures. Okay, so this I will talk about the usability, introduction usability, and then the objective measures, the subjective measures, and I call the third one is actually the preference measures. Okay, so about usability. Can I ask, Ma'am Gumasing, when you teach cognitive ergonomics, did you cover this topic?
Yes, but very brief only.
What
Usability in cognitive ergo.
yes. What you discussed, Ma'am? Usually.
We discussed the user experience, the different types of testing used for usability, and the UAX, the tool to measure the usability, the questionnaire.
Okay. What questionnaire do you use?
The USX. Wait.
SUS, you mean?
Yes,
SUS.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Only that. Yeah, that one. Okay. So at least some in the cognitive ergonomics, the undergrad they know at least how to conduct a simple way of usability. Okay. Now, yeah, when we talk about the usability, okay, usability is actually a very important part of the user experience. Okay, so user experience is so big, is so broad. That's why when I usually like to use the term usability rather than user experience, because user experience, there are other dimensions. We call it usefulness, emotional impact, and meaningfulness. Okay, emotional impact in here is actually a very another word. I will talk about this one hopefully next week. We call it Kansei engineering. Okay, Kansei engineering can be can be subjective, can be objective, can be measured by physical ergonomics, can be measured by cognitive ergonomics. Okay, for Kansei engineering. Okay, and we can have the meaningfulness and also the usefulness. Okay, but I would like to talk about this one about the usability. Okay, which is actually that you always hear this term, productivity, efficiency, ease of use, learnability, and so on. But what is this one actually? What is this one when we talk about the usability? Now I'm going to, divide or break it down into these three. Okay, everyone, these three are very, very important when I talk about the usability. Okay, the objective measures, the subjective measures, and then the preference measures. Okay, the objective measures in here. Okay, the objective measures. For example, let's talk about. I'm sorry, I have to choose a person in. I always choose a person in the class. Okay, let's do it. Ma'am Gumasing, let's say. Okay, Ma'am Gumasing.
Yes.
Let's talk about your husband. Okay, you can. The objective measure is like what? How tall is she? And then
Okay.
we can have another one like the age, right? And then so on. And that's what we call the objective. We can measure it directly, right? I mean, you can.
Okay.
We can measure it. That is what we call the objective measure or the physical measures. Okay, in that one. But subjective measures is actually some kind of like for example, we use the theory of planned behavior for your marriage, for example. Okay, you can have a questionnaire like, for example,
Yes.
I think this person is nice.
Yeah.
1 to 7, something like that one. I think blah blah
I
blah blah.
believe
1 to
this.
7. Yeah, I believe so on. That is what we call the subjective measures, right? But anyway, objective measures and subjective measures, why sometimes these two is actually when we call about the usability, something is kind of like, oh, it's different. For example, mom, if let's say objective measures, okay, let's say your
Wait.
neighbor, let's say your neighbor
Okay.
is your neighbor, your neighbor is a guy, around 40 and actually taller and more handsome perhaps, and then taller, handsome is here, right? More handsome perhaps, and then you know what,
More rich.
richer, yeah, more rich, Will you choose your neighbor or still choosing your
Of
husband?
course, I'll still choose my husband because
That's
he's
what
just
I call the
dear.
that's what I call the preference measures, because of
Yeah.
what, the best performance is not necessarily the one that you like.
Yes.
I always make this kind of joke, like even in my PhD dissertation, actually like I'll make this kind of joke, and all the panel members will like laughing of my explanation, because when you read the book, I kind of like, yeah, I understand, but what is the real example, okay, of the objective, subjective, and preference measure? Then I would say, oh yeah, choosing life partner is important. Like,
Yes, yes.
for example, the same thing, like for example, with if you use for example the mobile phone, and you do any kind of usability test, you measure the completion time, the accuracy, the number of click, number of scroll. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Completion time is fast, accuracy is high, number of click low, number of scroll is low. The subjective measure, for example, oh, this is still good, you get like 7, 7, 7, 7, and so on, and you thought that is the one that will that you thought like, oh, this is going to be a big seller, like that one. But why suddenly, like, why my product is not that good? There
Yes.
is the third dimension, we call it the
Preference.
preference measure.
Something that you can explain.
Yes, something that you like. It's a call it, I will call it like, yeah, it's like ability or what, I mean, like
Yes.
for example, you, like I told you before, like for example, your neighbor is more
Yes.
handsome,
Yeah.
rich, and then nice, or like more honest, and so on. But if
But
it
you
is like
still
that one,
choose the
yeah,
yes.
you still choose your husband. I hope your husband is not listening.
I'm on headset. It's not
Okay.
listening.
Yeah. Let's say, like that one. So that's why, with these three things, it's actually quite important. Then in terms of when you say usability, okay, we can measure by objective, subjective, preference, or we can measure it these three. If you measure these three, it's going to be very comprehensive usability study. But for example, if Ma'am Gumasing say, oh, I explained about SUS. SUS is actually a quick way. They actually call it a quick way to try to integrate these three. But if we wanted to break it down, it's actually that it's just a quick way for bridging this three. But it's okay. I will talk about the SUS after this one. Okay. So I would like to tell about these three first. Okay. These three first. That's why in ergonomic study, especially in cognitive ergonomics, they always say like this one: the effect of blah 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 to completion time. They always say like that one. The effect of blah blah. They actually try to test something. They try to test something in the objective measures, or like the effect of the or you can just say like the acceptance of this I would say that this blackboard. So that is actually a part of usability, yes, but it's actually in here. Subjective measure like TAM, TPB, UTA, UT2 is actually in here. It's a part of in the subjective measures. So if your study is just UTA, UT2, TPB, TAM, yes, it's a part of usability, but it's actually in here. Can we integrate this one with this one? Of course. This one with this one, of course, we can do it later on, of course. I think everybody knows about SEM, and I think I will show my PhD dissertation later on. Okay, so usability as or acceptability. These two are, I would say, a little bit different, okay? Because usability, the thing that always common in usability is always about comparing, okay? The term about usability is actually more about the comparing, but acceptability is just how we accept it. For example, the same here, technology acceptance model, okay? So it just talk about the acceptance. All right, unified theory of acceptance. See, this is not just about the acceptance, okay? So usability is actually quite more complex, or I would say like is broader than this one. It's actually more specific. So that's why when using this term, we have to be very careful, especially like when I deal with someone from that I told you before, the School of IT. I say when they say the usability study, and usually, mom, do you know what kind of questions that they use? Is it usable? Yes, no. For example,
Yes,
50,
yes.
and then 50, and then 40 say yes, 10 say no, oh, that's the usability test. Oh, I got a headache. I got a headache, you know. I'm kind of like, oh my god, like, okay, at least, you know what, I mean, like, oh, okay, you're not from IE then. Yeah, I was like, you're not from cognitive ergo, then perhaps that's the reason why they're actually more focused into like the development of the software and so on. I mean, the architecture of the software and so on. But for us, we are so expert at the testing how good it is to the human. So every time when I get the how to say that internship when I was in Taiwan, I always feel like, oh, can you do programming? No, I'm not good at programming, but I think I'm very good at how to test the thing that we developed from someone from EECE or School of IT to the human. So that is my part, and then I can make a very comprehensive report to you, and then and so on. Okay, so usability is not, it's not about the is it acceptable? Yes, no, 1 to 5. Only one question, only usually, okay. And so that's why it cannot be justified only by using one question. And then Likert scale is it's much better. Yeah, I think Likert scale is actually quite okay. Like, but it cannot say like, is it acceptable? What do you think? 1 to 5 acceptable or not? But it cannot be only one question, right? Okay. But and again, you know, it is much better if we use the if we would like to use the acceptance, it's much better if we use the theory. For example, like the theory of the technology acceptance model or UTA UT2. Those are very, I would say, very powerful for you know what, developing the framework. Okay, so up to here. Any so far so good? So far so good? Gumasi?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Say it, Dr. Yu.
Okay, so this one is actually the way, but I would like to talk one by one. Now it's going to be the difficult part. It's going to be like how we quantify this one, you know, one by one. So I'm going to go one by one. It's going to be, but before this, there is one I would say like a very quick way. For example, when I explain, usually I need to explain this one in the last. But now I would like to make it. I would like to explain this one first because I hope that the student can still have you know, full attention. Because when I describe what about usability, everybody kind of like shocked if I go to that deep level. So to the master students, now that's why I would like to tell this one first. There's because someone is say like, sir, you know, it's impossible to do at that level in my company. You know, my company is not like Asus, or like it's not like Acer that you know, that do like that high level of usability that you do, like that one. But is there a quick way or like a simple way to do the usability for you know, testing a kind of like a technology? Oh yes, we call it, there is one. So that's why we call it SUS, System Usability Scale. Okay, so SUS it consists of 10 questions. Okay, it consists of 10 questions, and SUS, you know, if for me SUS in here, it actually goes to this one. It goes to the subjective measures because it's actually your perception. It's not like you have to test the program for me. But some people, they say like, oh, it goes to you know, subjective measures and preference measures at the same time, because later on we will measure. But for me, I think I agree with that one. Is just the subjective measures, because this one is a little bit different. You know, preference measures is a little bit different. Okay, so for me, I agree that SUS is actually under the subjective only. So look at that one. I think that I would like to use this system frequently. I found the system unnecessarily complex. I thought the system was easy to use and so on. Maela, have you heard about SUS before?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, okay. Perhaps that time I did not explain about this one. Okay. So, okay. SUS consists of 10 questions. Okay. And this is a quick and a standard way. And then it consists of 10 questions. And you can see that the odd numbers like 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 is actually positive. And then even numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, you know, these are negative. Why they make it like positive and negative at the same time? Because they don't want to be like, oh, just like, oh, just answer 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and so on, because we don't reading this one. Okay, and that is actually dangerous. You know, that's why they make it like positive and negative, positive and negative. Okay, let me give you one example of the system usability scale. Okay. This is actually one of my MEPIE students. That's why he actually his company has a big problem with because they use two ERP softwares, both either SAP or Oracle, Oracle Cloud. Okay, SAP S4 HANA or Oracle Cloud. And you know what? Because they use these two, it's kind of like confusing for some of the some of the workers in the I would say that in his company, and he would like to do some kind of like usability test, but it cannot be just yes no question. He would like to ask me like, oh, is there a way, a scientific way, but I don't want to be too complicated, like you have to be number of click, number of scroll. That one is too difficult for him. I say like, okay, we can count just using a subjective way, we call it SUS. Okay. So this is actually the questionnaire. Okay, remember SUS is actually consists of the 10 questions, right? And then look at that one. I think that users would like to use, for example, this one, SAP S4 HANA. I think the users would like to use Oracle Cloud ERP, but this one is actually, you have to separate this one into two questionnaires. It's actually one participant, they evaluate 2 times. You got it, Maela? Because I tested I tested this one, so they actually have to answer this one twice. Okay, this one is actually like separate. Okay, but I just would like to put it here together for to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so I found, let's say, Oracle Cloud ERP applications on Oracle Cloud ERP applications unnecessarily complex 1 to 5 and so on. Okay, so now after answering this one, there is a standard way to quantify what is the usability score based on one person perception on that mobile application. Okay, so how they make something subjective into a little bit more quantitative. How they quantify this one. Okay, so actually let's say the response is 5 1 4 1 5 4 3 2 5 1. Okay, so this is actually the way how they this is the answer. Okay, but this one is actually how we actually compute that one into a certain score. Okay, so for the odd number, okay, for the odd number, okay, the answer, you know what, the deviation should be like -1. For example, if it is for example in here, you know what, let's say 5. Okay, then the deviation is actually -1, is going to be 4. But for here, for even number, they have to be like this one, deviation -5, to make it everything is like equal. So for example, if the question 1, the maximum for question 1 and question 2 is actually later on in the here is actually, we call it sorry, the maximum one is actually 4. Okay, so if someone's answer like 5 1 5 1 5 1 5 1 5 1, so it means like it's perfect answer, right? Because this is like positive negative positive negative positive negative positive negative and so on. Okay, so this one is actually Maela, it's like in the data mining, the data pre-processing, right? You know about this one, right? Yeah,
Yes.
this is actually like how to normalize the data, or we call it data pre-processing. Okay, this is the data pre-processing. I just use that term because later on I think everyone will study data mining. Okay, so this is the data pre-processing, how to make it normal. So the maximum for this one is going to be like 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4 4. Then the sum of this one is going to be what? 40, right? Now 40 is actually quite confusing for some people, like because our mental model, we always see the score from 0 to 100. Then this score is actually times 2.5. It's going to be 82.5. This is the score based on the perception of one participant for a certain mobile app or for certain technology or so on. Okay, so this is one example. See, this is one example. For example, I think use this mobile app frequently. I find this mobile app, I think it's better to change this one into the name, the name. Okay, so later on, this is the calculation. Okay, we have this one, we have this score. Okay, we have the score of the SUS score. Okay, so this is actually the highest one is going 100. The lowest one is going to be what's the lowest one? If I have the 0, right? Yeah, 0 can be 0. This one, for example, if everything is like 1, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, everything's like 0, 0, 0, 0. Yeah, 0. So the lowest score is going to be 0. Okay, later on. Okay. Okay, don't worry. I have one Excel file later on. Perhaps I can share to everyone. Okay, so okay. Then now is actually I asked my I would say that my student, yeah, can you do the collect the SUS for around, I forget how many participants that time. I think 20 or like 20 or 30 managers. I think 20 or 30 managers. He distributed this questionnaire. To all the managers. I think around 20 or 30. I forget. Okay. And he would like to see whether there is actually a statistical difference between these two, and which one is actually better and what's the SUS score. Actually, that's the as simple as that one. Okay, so later on you can just use only one, and the other one you can just you don't need to continue the contract with that one. So later on I found it that we found it actually Oracle is much better than SAP, and it's actually statistically significant. So the score that you got from all the participants is actually 73.24, and for SAP is like 44.44. Remember, this one is actually from one respondent. If you have 20 respondents, you have to put the average of the 20 respondents. Okay, this is only one. So later on, you have to put the average of the 20 respondents. This is actually what he found. And then you have to use the statistical analysis, right, to see whether that is actually statistically significant. I mean, I would say that one is significantly different or not. Oh, 27, sorry. 27 managers. So 27 managers, they have to evaluate the SAP and Oracle, right? This is actually, they got the mean, and we would like to see the, the statistical analysis, Then we use the pair sample t-test, okay, because the one actually, one person is actually testing these two, okay, and we found that there is a statistical difference between those two, with the p-value is actually significant. Okay, and this is actually the SUS score, for A, B, C, D, F. So they have this one A, B, C, D, F, just like the I would say Mapua grade, but higher than 80 we call excellence, good, okay, poor, awful. So this one Oracle, although this is much higher than SAP, but this one only belongs to what? Good. Only belongs to good. But this one, it belongs to awful. Okay, so you can group them into the international standard. And this is actually the score of the Oracle is actually around around here, around 70 something in here, right? So this is actually based on those 27. I would say that 27 respondents is actually around here. But look at that one. What's the highest one in here? But this is actually just, I don't know how much. I just searched in the Google about the SUS, and I found like this one is. I found this one. I don't know how many participants, but as you can see, like Google search is actually quite. It's quite high. It's the 93 perhaps the score in here. And then Gmail, and Amazon, and so on. So you can later on you can do any kind of comparison. Okay, but again, when we call about this one, is it usability test? Yes, this is usability test. One of the key findings of the usability test is actually what you compare, right? Which one is better? Usability is usually is always about the comparison. Okay, you compare something like that, and this is actually we compare. If you have 3, if you have 4, if you have 5, yes, you can. Can you compare that one? Yes, you can compare that one using the simple one, the ANOVA test, and then to see whether like there is an effect of the, the effect of the ERP system, the effect of ERP system on the SUS score. So you can also do that one with the simple one-way ANOVA. Okay, Ma'am Bore, so far so good. This one, is it clear enough?
Yes, sir.
It's clear enough. And this
Yes,
one
sir.
is actually, yeah, this is actually a very, I would say that if we, I know some of my Taiwanese friends, when they go to the company, they always be some, especially for those who choose human computer interaction, they make a lot of money only by doing simple things like this one. I know them kind of like, wow, you earn a lot of money, like or doing that one. That's what like they especially in a country that very, I would say like a computer manufacturing, like South Korea, Japan, or like Taiwan, and they always, the the usability engineers, they always, do this kind of things, and then they make a lot of money and so on. Maela, is it clear? Very clear.
Yes, all clear.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so this is actually the thing that in SUS. So SUS for me, okay, it just belongs to the subjective natures. Okay, it's actually in here. I can add for me SUS another one. Okay, but later on, we will talk about the even further. Okay, now I go to the that one is actually a quick way. Now we go to the more scientific way, I would say. More scientific way. Yes, my advisor, Dr. Jolin, is one of the experts in usability, and then usability again is actually comparison. Is in the usability is very important. For example, okay, GoPro 9 and GoPro 8. Is it significantly different, or like I would say that Apple, it's not Apple. I would say that how would say that iPhone, now iPhone what? iPhone 14, 13? I don't know. Ayla, what's
I
the
don't
most?
know too. I'm not an iPhone user.
I also don't like Apple. Mom Gumasing, do you know Apple what? iPhone 12 now?
I'm not user also of iPhone. I tried using
User.
iPhone before, but for me it's
Sorry.
not user friendly. I like
Okay.
Samsung better.
Same.
Yeah,
Okay, same.
I don't like iPhone.
Okay, so now you use what? Samsung, right? Perhaps now Samsung 20 S21, right? The newest.
I think so, 21, yes.
Is there a significant difference between S10 Plus and S21? We don't know, right? That's why we need to do the kind of like, yeah, we don't know. Yeah, that's why when someone say like usability, it's always about what? Comparison. So in terms of what? That's why when someone asks me about usability, because I don't know in terms of what, you use SUS, you use the number of click, number of scroll, or just the perception of your subjective feeling, or just the ranking. Which one, A or B? Okay, A or B. That's why A or B and so on. It's like choosing the husband, like that one. Oh, three candidates, A or B or C. Later on, and so on. So, which one? What how? What kind of direction you gonna use? To tell people that that you do the usability analysis. Okay, now this one. Apple, sorry, GoPro 8 or GoPro 9. So actually like this one, provide different design and test it. So it's actually the key. Okay, when there is a new technology, okay, my professor in the past, he always, he bought that one, he tested, and he published the paper, and he did some kind of like conclusion. It's like there is a significant difference in terms of number of scroll, let's say, or like number of click, okay, or the blink of the eyes, or if you would like to do in a a little bit combination with the Kanse, with the physical, for example, like introduce the heart rate, for example. Even using this one comparison, you can compare the heart rate of the person, or the brain wave. That is also, or like the muscle activations. It actually can also do that. For example, this equipment is much better than that one because of what? Perhaps it's actually reduced the activation of latissimus dorsi, or blah blah blah. It can be. Okay, so comparison is actually quite important. Okay. Now I go to the first dimension. Okay, remember we have 3 dimensions, right? The first dimension is actually, we call it objective measures. Now, okay, which design is better? This one or this one? Before or after? This one is much better, or this one? Which one is much better? Okay, this is one very common, I would say, that the test in master thesis level in Taiwan. They test, which design is actually much better, this one or this one. So that's why, when we have to, when we would like to tell people, if you would like to go for the objective measures, you have to test it to the human, right? So ask the respondents to do several different tasks. So we usually, when we do a usability test, one person, they always evaluate a certain levels. Certain levels or scenarios that you create, okay, either this is A, this is B, this is C. Sometimes, you know what? I remember my friend had a design up to 8. Out to 8, yeah, one person I have to evaluate 8 different designs. It's actually he manipulated something in here. For example, from vertical to horizontal, but from horizontal they make it like a different, how big it is and so on. So it will be like a you can get later on the completion time, the accuracy, and so on. Okay, so that's why when you would like to test this one into a new design, then you have to test it to the human and compare it. Okay. Or like this one, the touchscreen. Okay, this is actually, if someone from School of IT, they always have the data of the the coordinate of the I would say that they always have the data, the coordinate, where you place that one. So the coordinate itself is actually very important. Okay, the coordinate, how they make the code is actually based on the location of the place that you locate on that one. Okay, now hopefully everyone will be fine. I'm going to go to super mathematics after this one. Myla, have you heard what Fitts law?
Just last week when you talked about it last week.
Ma'am Gumasing, can I ask?
What the Fitts law? Yes. Yes. Dr.
Usually
Ruby.
you test. Usually you test what in
reaction time. As a Fitts law, the movement time.
No, the class in the class. The Fitts law.
Sorry.
What, did you do Fitts law experiment in the class usually?
Yes, using the software. We have the CogLab.
Yeah, the CogLab, right?
Software. Yes.
Okay. It's just I would say that showing the graph like that, the graph of the Fitts law.
No, in the experiment.
Yes. What is the report usually for the student? They have to report
time. Yeah, the reaction time in reaction time in tapping to stimulus.
Okay, and then
based on distance and
okay.
the width of the object.
Okay. So
and then we'll just compare if there's significant difference in
okay.
reaction
Just
time.
like, okay. But have you heard a term called throughput?
No.
Okay. So okay. Now, okay. Ma'am Rhea, have you heard throughput before? Not really, right?
No, sir, can't remember.
Okay. Now I have to explain that one from the. Okay. Anyway, it's fine. Okay. Fitts is actually very wow in the human computer interaction. Okay. His experiment is actually I would say that in Ergo, this is actually kind of like, wow, God of Ergo, perhaps like Fitts, Hick-Hyman's, Weber's, Fechner's, those four, those are very amazing. And then the application of its law itself is nowadays is amazing, especially when I read papers about Fitts law nowadays. But I know some people also abuse this one a little bit crazy. Okay, now we talk about the Fitts law. Okay, so Fitts law, it's the simple way, okay? It tells us how long it will take a move a pointer from a specific position to hit different targets. For example, from here to here, or from here to here, of course, it's going to be make sense, right? Here to here is actually much faster. The completion time, from here, if you click from here to here, of course it's going to be much faster because of what? Because the distance is actually closer, and not just about that, but the width itself of the target is actually larger. Okay. Now, we can tell people that why the old iPhone, you cannot use it anymore because of what? Because it's too small. Okay, because that one is too small. But now I don't know. I would like to conduct a study with this one with watch, but so many how to say that. And those names again, that I know, these professors again, they always, publish those things very quick, especially when you have a new technology, they always try to use it. And how they measure it, Fitts law, right? Completion time, right? They ask the participants to do something, and then they show it the data, and then they do statistical analysis. That's the common thing in a cognitive ergo. Okay. And with law, they kind of like, we would like to make some kind of like a predictive model, like a prediction, but they make it into he already proved everything that is actually correct. That's why they make it into a law, okay, a Fitts law. At the beginning, you know, the Fitts law, this is the original experiment of the Fitts law. They asked the participants to actually, you know, click, you know, to tap from A to B, and so on. Okay, that's why Fitts law is very common that we heard about the term tapping test. Okay, it's the tapping test. Okay. Okay, so basically it's just the other common terms. Okay, now for example here, okay, from here to click this one and from here to click this one, of course, you know, the time in here will be what? Will be much faster than the time when you click here to here. Okay, so that's why, Maela, the Fitts law thing in your experiment is very important because of what? It can be confounded. Do you know why, Maela? When you have the setting of the target, the answer, that's why when I say that one, hey, there is a Fitts law issue, be careful with that one. You know, when you design the interface of that one, remember, we don't want to have a confounded effect. What I call the confounded effect is actually that you don't want to test that one, you know, but you know, there is a effect of the distance and the width, right, of the answer in your experiment, your design experiment, right? If you make it like the answer is like not equal or a little bit closer to the middle to the answer or closer to the next, then there is an effect perhaps of the, and you don't want that one because you don't test that one. The main goal is not for creating a you know, a line of Fitts law graph. You know, we don't want to focus on that one. But if your study is actually about the usability that mentioned, that actually you manipulated something and you would like to collect the accuracy, the movement time, okay, and then that is the time when you really have to you know, and do the Fitts law analysis. Okay, so this is very simple equation, but remember, okay, later on I will describe my PhD dissertation. It's actually about Fitts law, but I will not record since it's actually still under review. Okay, okay, so this is just a very simple regression line, right? But again, there is a term, we call it ID in here, or index of difficulty. But do you know what is the ID here? Ma'am Gumasing, did you really try to change the ID?
I know, no. The index of difficulty, no. It has a formula, right? The two,
yes, it has a
the log
formula.
of 2 to the over, yeah.
Log D per
But
W.
I have,
D
yes.
W plus 1, yeah.
Over W. Distance over, yeah.
Yeah, but the one in the, I know in the software, I don't think we can manipulate the ID. Can we? I don't know. I forget. It's been. Can you manipulate the ID, or it's just like?
I don't think so. Yeah.
They already fixed it, right? They have a fix.
Yes,
already.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Actually, you know, we can manipulate the ID. So what is the meaning of ID in here, everyone? The sense is like this one. Okay. Ergo is always about the sense. Okay. But you have to my professor always say like, oh, you have to quantify that one into mathematics and so on. You know, you always ask, you know, you have to quantify something in of your sense. So that's ergo. Look at this one. Okay, this is which ID is much index of difficulty is, which one is much higher? This one is much higher, right? Just makes sense. A or B, which one is much higher? Yeah, this one is much higher because this is more difficult. It's longer and it's smaller. So that's why the ID of this one is actually much higher than this one, from here, from clicking to here to here. But but can we manipulate the ID of this one, or you know, the ball target? Yes, we can manipulate the ID with a certain equation. Okay, the equation of the ID is actually this one, you know, log 2 and then D divided by W plus 1. So what's that mean of this one? This one is actually, remember, log is actually you try to make everything a straight line, you know. And then actually in here they found this one, they found this equation, okay, that the distance, remember, the longer the, you know, the longer the distance, it will be what? More difficult, right? The index of difficulty is going to be higher, right? And the width itself, you know, the width itself, okay, if it is what? If it's bigger, it will be lower. So this one, see, remember, if the distance is longer, it will be higher. If the width is actually bigger, it will be lower, the ID, okay? So later on, if you see a ball, if a ball target and you manipulate the target, the study always use Fitts law. So when you see a ball, you know, like a study, like there is a ball or something like, or a square, you know, like a square, big square, a small square, that study definitely about Fitts law. Okay. only just for the graphical abstract. Sometimes when I read about the study that I type Fitts law, and then when I see that one, this is going to be Fitts law. Okay. Then there is a ISO standard 92419. I think I forgot. Oh yeah, there it's here. Okay, 92419. Okay, this is actually the ISO standard for calculating the ID, okay, of the index of difficulty. And every time when you would like to test something about the Fitts law, you change the ID. So, Ma'am Gumasing, in that software, actually that you can, I don't know, can you manipulate the D and W?
I don't think so, because the
It's fixed.
distance and it's already given, right?
Oh yeah, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Usually, I don't know. Can we develop a nice software? I will ask someone from. It's okay. I will ask Dr. Wira. I think because his BS is the computer science, so he's good at the. And he's good at making a simple program about the. It's just a very simple program actually, but anyway, this is actually one example, okay, of calculating, okay, the movement time. For example, okay. This is actually the 80 meter, okay, but don't worry, you know what, this one, we usually, this one is actually by a computer, or like by how you say that, you ask the participants, okay. So don't worry about this one. Usually when you click here, when you click start, they have the timing, right? They have the timing, like it will be counted, okay, from this one to this one, clicking to this one to this one, or this one to this one, okay. So later on, everyone, when you try to force someone to click from here to here, there will be two, I would say that two dependent variables that you can get, okay. The first that you can get is actually what? The movement time, okay, or the completion time from here to here. The second is actually the dot in here. You want it to be like as center as possible, right? As accurate as possible. So the second thing that you can do is actually the accuracy, okay. How accurate from here to here, is it hit the target? Yes, it hits the target. But if you would like to make it like as center as possible, okay, that is another thing that you can actually count, okay, the accuracy. But of course, it will be like the the location in here. You have to, you have to set the location in here. But don't worry, usually people from the computer science, they know it already, because people from CS or the school of IT, they always know the coordinate, of the. Anthony, your BS is CS? No, ECE, right? Your BS.
No, sir. Electrical.
Okay. But I think making a program like that one is easy for you, right? Not that difficult. Usually, like for someone from ECE. Okay, so that is actually the thing about the Fitts law. This is just a small story about the Fitts law. Okay. Anyway, everyone. What about this one? When someone say, which one is better? That's why when someone say like, which one is better? That's why I always ask, you just ask about the what? Can say feeling of the product, or you would like to tell about the how good it is, how variable, I mean, how good it is, or like what? That's why, when someone says to me, hey, Yogi, you're good at usability, right? Your dissertation is about usability, right? And then someone asks, like, which one is more usable? That's why when I say like, which one you wanna test subjectively or objectively, or just the pair, obviously the preference, which one you like. By looking at this one, you can have a feeling, perhaps like, I like this one, I like that one, and so on. But is it really good when you after using it? So that's actually the thing that I would like to test. Okay, so let's say this one is like a vertical mouse. This is Asus mouse. This is the this is quite expensive. This one is actually Microsoft Sculpt ergonomic mouse. They call it Ergo mouse. And then is it really Ergo mouse? Let's test it. Okay, this is Logitech, and this is actually Air mouse. So it's kind of like remote. When you do like this one, it will move also. The idea of this Logitech is actually they would like to make it like a remote like this one. And this is like a very simple how you say that standard mouse with a cable. Okay, when I would like to test about the objective measures, then I have to what? I have to recruit participants and I have to test, right? The participant needs to test these things. Okay, so this is the thing that one example that we can do for the for testing that one. for testing the usability of those pointing device. Okay, so we you know what we can test that one by clicking this one into, for example, into a Fitts law test. For example, when you do the Fitts law test, when there is this one, there is a white dot. When you click this one, okay, something will appear. It will be white like this one. Now, when there is a click like this one, there is this one. You click this one again, and this one will turn into black. And you have to move you have to move your cursor from white to this target as quick as possible, as center as possible. Then after hitting this one, it will disappear. Okay, this is one example that we can do for the Fitts law. Okay, we can do for the Fitts law. Can the target in here? Yes. Can the target in here? Yes. Can the target as little bit big in here? Yes. We manipulated what? We manipulated the ID of this one. Okay. So I would like to see what happened with that pointing device. Okay. Okay. Later on, when you try to use, one participant, when you manipulated the input, or like one participant needs to do some kind of like a certain task, we use repeated measure ANOVA. So it's actually quite different because this one is actually within design. Okay, it's not between design, it's actually within design. Within design, that's why we use the repeated measure ANOVA. So that's why when you see I would say like experimental cognitive ergonomics, most people, they use repeated measure ANOVA because it's within design. Okay, because one within design, you use the same subject to collect other data. But of course, you have to do, there is the issue of sequence. You have to I would say randomize the sequence, and then to minimize the learning curve or learning effect. But I will talk learning curve next 2 weeks. Okay, there are so many things in cognitive ergo. I cannot cover in one meeting, right? I know everyone is already, Mom Gumasing, is still okay, right? In your brain, or kind of getting hot?
I'm feeling hungry.
Hungry. Okay. Ma'am Rhea, you still fine? Hey, you still
hungry for numbers, Jay.
I want to
Sir,
eat
I
Dr.
don't
Yogi.
know.
I mean, hey, I know.
Trying to be okay, sir.
Yeah, try. Yeah, I know. And sometimes, like, when I explain some of, master students, they cannot, sir, I give up. Like, they say, like, up to here, sometimes some students, they kind of like, sir, can we give up? Oh, okay. I mean, it's okay. But this is PhD. Okay, I have to force everyone to at least, you see this kind of thing. Okay, so for example, I manipulated the speed of the cursor. And then, for example, this is mouse 1, mouse 2, mouse 3. There are 5, right, before. And I would like to see if a different speed, what will happen with the, let's say, completion time for clicking like this one, okay? For clicking this one, okay? And as you can see, just based on the figure, you can see this one is actually quite different, right? So this one, when you do the post hoc, later on, this will be in a one group, perhaps. It will be another group. This one is actually not significant different, between these input devices, okay? So, but even so, you can test in which kind of, which one is actually much, the best one. The best one, of course, which has the fastest one, right? The fastest completion time. In terms of the completion time, which one is best? We found it that in terms of the completion time, this one is the best. I think because because people get used to this one. Okay, this one is the best. This is the worst. This one is number 1 because this one is actually vertical. Like this one. This is actually, people will say, oh, this is ergo mouse for eliminating the carpal tunnel syndrome and whatever. When I hear about that use, I'm kind of like, hey, you cannot trick ergo people. But that one, I know how to test that one. Okay, so when you test that one, you show it that oh, this is actually when the speed is low and when the speed is medium, when the speed is high, we can see that perhaps the cursor number 2 is actually quite good, okay, in terms of the completion time. Okay, and I did limited measure ANOVA with post hoc Tukey test. Okay, don't worry about the greenhouse gas here effect. you know what, this assumption and so on. I will talk about this one hopefully next week. If someone is interested doing human computer interaction, Maela, will you go to this one? Not really, right?
Probably no. And yeah, it's really hard to do this kind of
Yes,
experiment.
it is.
Mhm.
Not I mean, not just about the coding itself, but there's so many things that in a control, control in the same table should be same chair. You know what? You just manipulated the input devices. But again, usability is not just about the input device. There are so many things in usability, like touch screen, or like head-mounted display. There's so many things, that you can do with the usability. But I just show you the simplest one. But if for the simplest one, everyone perhaps got the headache. Okay. But anyway, don't worry. I will talk about even harder after. I will talk about throughput. I will talk about the ID. I will talk about the regression. Also that the regression comparison, including abusing the process capability index that you learned in the process capability in the quality into ergonomics. I will talk about that one after this. Okay, let's go to a little bit more simpler one. I think everybody knows about this one. Okay, let's go to the more I would say it's easier one. Okay, we call it the subjective measures. I believe everyone already know about SUS. Now we go to the technology acceptance model, theory of behavior, UTA, UT2. Okay. Okay, everybody knows about this one, right? About the technology acceptance model. So usually when the study if you don't compare, you just use the acceptance, then we call it acceptance test. Okay, it's not the usability test, because usability test you have to compare usually which one is better, A or B. Okay, but now you just would like to see using some kind of like a behavior, how is you will kind of like utilize this kind of a technology. Okay, this is actually TM. Okay, I think Dr. Satya already. This is Dr. Satya's more to consumer behavior field, but we also studied that one in the cognitive ergo. Okay, I believe everybody knows about this one, extended TAM and so on. So I just want to highlight again. Look at this one: driver's acceptance of mobile navigation applications. It's not about like a usability of mobile navigation applications. If the title is usability, then it's always about comparison. Or usually, if it's not about the usability, usually people will say like the effect of, let's say, depth, or like the effect of something on something, then that is another usability test. They actually manipulated something. Okay, but if it's just about the acceptance, then it's just about the user acceptance. Okay. There is one. Okay, this is like one of examples. Okay, and another one is actually about this one: mobile library applications. See, investigating the acceptance. Always, if it's just about acceptance, then it's just one small part of the usability. Okay. Okay. This is everybody knows about that one, about SCM and so on, about UT82. Now I'm going to talk about the third one. Quite different, the third one. Okay. We call it the preference measure. Okay. Usually, okay, why preference measure is so powerful? Eventually, you know what? In the real life, when we make decision, the most important is the preference measure. I prove it in my PhD dissertation later on. Okay, the most important later on, it's just the preference measures. The same with the hiring, recruiting a person in a, usually from MEPI, so many people from HR. That's why when I say like that one, hey, this is the same like from when you recruit someone, you don't care about the IQ, about the how you say that, about the psychological test or about the GPA. Eventually during the interview, you will have a feeling, oh, I like this person. So this is actually that what I am talking about in the usability dimension. We call it the preference measures. You forget about the objective measures like the GPA, the TOEFL score. You forget that. You also forget about the subjective measures like the psychology test and personality measures and so on. You forget about that. Then because the final one is actually this one, the preference measure. You like this person, like when you do the interview. That's why usually when you hire a person, you always have the interview, right, Maela? You always have interview, right? After that one.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Always interview. You cannot hire someone without this one. You will not hire someone only just by the objective and subjective without knowing the person, right? You will not do that, right, Maela?
Yes. we
Yeah.
have to consider several
Yes.
factors.
Yes. So this is actually the eventually someone will well you like you marry a person is actually this one we call it the preference measure. And I would like to and then people like ask me how you conduct the preference measure. Okay, I will show two things: ranking tests and pairwise comparison. Okay, ranking test and pairwise comparison. Let's say ranking test. Okay, ranking test. Let's say like this is the icon. Like I told everyone know. Let's say there are 7 icons like in here. You do the ranking test. So ranking test is actually very useful. But Maela, if you can you imagine if you have 30, what will happen?
It would be difficult to rank
Yes, of
all.
course. Of course. For example, if you have 1,000 applicants, will you do the ranking 1 to 1,000? No, right?
No, not really.
No, right? Not really, right?
Yes.
Not really, right? And so on. So, usually in the ranking, can I ask Maela, when you recruit someone, how many people usually pass to the second round, the interview round,
Mm.
or
Oh,
the third round, or
actually,
the final round?
oh, let's say for every 1,000 applicants, we would only move forward around 10%. So that's just
Oh,
about
the
100
10%.
to the interview phase.
Okay, the 100 to the interview phase. Okay. But eventually there is a second interview. Is it like that one, the final interview?
Yes.
Do you have there is, right? And then in the
Yes.
final interview, let's say if you only have 15, you can rank 1 to 15. Yes, you can rank 1 to 15 perhaps, or 1 to 10 perhaps. You can rank, after the interview, like so on. But if it is difficult, just like in the every when every time when someone invite, when an event invites me to be the judge, remember you always have or Ma'am Gumasing always let's say about the presentation in the online conference, in the online conference and so on. They give me like, oh, the content, the
Yeah.
PPT, the English, and so on. I mean, this is the
As,
same like
as a session
usability.
chair, yeah.
Yeah, as a session, you always have that one, diba? And eventually, you know what? For me, if you give the score based on that one. Eventually, at the end of the day, usually like, hey, I like this one. This one should be number 1. But why
Yes.
it should be
That's the preference.
yes, yes. Sometimes like also like that one. When I just started my career, after PhD, when I become the session chair, after this one should not be the first. I think I don't know, based on that one. So that's why, based on the objective measures, it does not necessarily like, I think you make a mistake on that one. So eventually, you know what, nowadays I just rank, because usually like Ma'am Gumasing, I rank first, then I put the score.
Yeah, same with me. That's what I do also.
Yeah, right. You
Yeah.
rank first, right? You rank
Yes.
first. You rank first, right?
And then just adjust the score.
Yeah, and then you give the score based on, you kind of like adjusting. So now, because that one is more close. It's closer to the thing in our heart that you cannot say, how come that this one I make a mistake or what? Usually it's kind of like that. Or the other one, if you really think that is difficult, now we can do another one. We call it the pairwise comparison. But eventually, for example, at the beginning, I always there are 7, or usually 7 is already a lot. Yeah, let's say 7. Okay, in one session, usually 7 or 8 is already so many. I like 3. I like three presentations, and when I decide like, oh, it's difficult, the ranking is still difficult. What should I do? Then I force myself to do the pairwise comparison, A or B, A or B. I don't know which one. Let's think about that one later. A or B based on a certain, like you do AHP. Okay, just like you do AHP. The same thing like with the AHP. AHP is actually giving the weight, but this one is actually giving the the preference. Okay, let's say, okay, Maela, eventually, you know what, the one that goes to the final round, you have 3 candidates. You can do this one, right? You do pairwise, right? A or B, B or C, like comparing, not just about the ranking, but also like comparing. This one A or B, I only have 1 seat. Then you do that one, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, sometimes you do this one. This is actually another powerful thing to measure about the pairwise comparison. But be careful with one thing that using this technique. Okay, for ranking is actually powerful, but the difficulty for ranking 1 to 7 is actually if you have more and more. Let's say you have 15. It's already difficult ranking 1 to 15. How can you do 1 to 15? 1 to 7, yes, it's much more makes sense, but 1 to 15 is so difficult. Let's say you have 15 presenters and you have to, rank. It's difficult that one. But this one, the same thing. If you also have, this one is powerful when you only have difficult, small numbers, but it's very difficult for you to decide. This is actually quite powerful pairwise comparison. Okay, but be careful with the. This is so mathematics. Mom, go back. Are you still fine?
I'm hungry. I want to
Agree.
eat you, Dr. Yogi. What's that?
This is circular error. Later on we can have an index. We call it circular error. But anyway, it's okay.
But there's a software to use.
There's a
compute
software.
that, right? Okay, okay.
There's a software. There's a software for no. The logic is actually the logic is you have to tell people that. For example, the logic is simple, but be careful with the we call it circular error. For example, this one. A or B, you say A. B or C, you say B. Then A and C is definitely A, right? Yeah, right? Based on your logical thing. But usually there is a person, they did a circular error. For example, A or B, A. B or C, B. A or C, it should be, and then this person's error, C. The C, then that is what we call the circular error. Okay, there is no logical thing. Okay, there is no, but Anthony Bela, when you see this one, you cannot understand, Anthony. I think you cannot.
I cannot understand, sir.
Okay then. Okay, this is actually the logic. Okay, when you write into the coding. Okay, later on. But anyway, that's the thing, that be careful with the circular error when you do the pairwise comparison. And then to minimize that one, the circular error, there is the third one. We call it neutral. You don't have a specific preference. In order for you to how you say that? In order for you to get out from the circular error, okay, A or B, or you don't know, or you have no specific preference. You can say like, oh, I have no specific preference, and that is actually the to minimize the circular error. Okay, so basically in the preference measures, okay, two powerful things that you can do is actually the ranking or the pairwise comparison. And when someone asks me if in the real application or in the industry, because they want it to be quick, and then yeah, people in the industry usually they don't really care about ANOVA and so on. That's the scientific proof. They don't really care. They need to have a quick decision. Usually, I was like, hey, usually SUS or usually just the ranking or pairwise. These two are very common things in the real life and so on. Okay. Now I show one thing: usability in practical applications. Okay. Usually, okay, when someone do this one, the usability test, if it is about the accuracy, or when you test this one, Maela, what you can test in about this one, you can test this one based on the if it's about the objective measures, you can test what the accuracy, right? What is this about? Is it about this one? This one is based on, of course, based on the choices. Okay, based on the choices, of course, you can test the accuracy of the intended meaning of the icon. Whether later on you can get the how many answer correct, for that certain function. That is actually the objective measures. That is usability. Okay, this is a part of usability. And then if you would like to ask this one about the subjective part, you can do some kind of with the Kansei, okay, some kind of subjective measures, affective measures, okay, semantic difference scales, I would like to say, and then you can actually analyze that number. Or eventually, you know what, you can also do the reference measures, or like we call it the usability preference measure. Which one is actually, you can rank 1 to 7, right? From here, yes, you can rank in 1 to 7, and eventually like you can choose one the best design for a certain function. Okay, if you do those three analysis, then that means that you do super complete usability tests. Okay, but doing that one,
Yeah,
doing that
including
one,
the
Maela,
ranking.
but doing that one, I had the experience and
Let's
I
see.
cried. I, like when that it's not crying. I was like, I wanted to cry that time, but I know like crying for 5 minutes is useless because I'm kind of like crying 5 minutes is useless. I just have to move on. Okay. Anyway, in practical applications, you know what? We only use the heuristic judgment. What I mean, the heuristic judgment is actually the final one. We call it the preference measures. Like based on my experience, I think this one. That is what I call the heuristic or shortcut. Because nowadays when you say like, I have to, for example, which mouse is best, A or B? For example, if you talk to someone too scientific, they will say, I have to test that one and so on, blah blah blah. But if you talk to me, I will know like, what do you want? What do you want me to say? It's just a quick way, or you want it to be super scientific way, okay? But if you go to a company, they will test it to very even to milliseconds. They always count it, that number. Okay, if you go to Apple, you go to the Amazon, when they do usability tests, they always when you go to the UX department, they always test even milliseconds. They actually count that one. Okay. Okay. So now, remember now when we have the usability, okay, when we would like to test everything, okay. For example, Ma'am Gumasing testing about what? About the chair, ergo chair, about testing what table, and so on. We can have these three things, diba? You can have the objective measures, the anthropometric dimensions, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, you can have the subjective measures, like, is it using CMD?
Comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, it's comfortable and so on. And we can have the final one, we call the preference measure, which one you like, A, B, or C, and that's
Okay.
yeah. So that is the thing why I would like to
That's
show this one.
usability.
Yes, that's usability.
Not just the questionnaire.
Yes, not just like, is it usable? Yes, no.
Yeah.
And then usually someone from School of I mean for IE, for me it's much better compared to the School of I mean mom Gumasik, if you but glad how to that Mom invited me, but when I explained this one, she invited me last year, but when I showed this one to hundreds of the School of IT students, they were kind of like they're kind of like and then they kind of like they become so stressful, and then everyone complained to Mom Intal, and Mom Intal say like, it's okay, that one is PhD, I know. You got it with the those statistical things. Okay, after this one I'll show even higher level, that into milliseconds, like that one. Okay, anyway, let me give a example of the usability chair. This is what I did, okay, with senior high school, I don't know, years ago, when I just started. It's just about this one. See, evaluation of chair dimensions, anthropometric measurements, and subjective discomfort among Filipino senior high school students, the SCM approach. Okay, so this is just a very simple things, but the one that I would like to share in here is like, you can bridge subjective and objective at the same time. Okay, remember about the usability. Okay, remember there's objective measures. Which one you wanna? You measure objectively using what, muscle activation or what? That's the objective measures. Or you just want to measure the subjectively, or you would like to just which one you like. Like eventually. Okay, I did those three, but it's just a very simple. It's a very simple things, but it's just I just want to share. Right? Yeah, they were just in your high school. Okay, come on. I mean, like, so there is the, which one is better, A or B or C? Okay, so okay, and then they recruited how many? I forget, like and because that time they always say like, oh sir, it's difficult to find how many respondents. So okay, so they are collected how many? Oh, only 52. Okay, so in here, remember, I measured those three actually. Look at that one: objective measures, the subjective measures, the preference. Okay, and the objective measures, actually I wanted to count the mismatch, okay, between their body and also the chair, but they keep they tried too much negotiate negotiate that with me, and I was like, oh, it's okay as long as you graduate, it's fine. Okay, and then we did not calculate that one for the objective measures. So I only calculate the chair dimensions and anthropometric measures, and the subjective is actually we use I forget. Later on we can see. Okay, and then eventually we ask the preference to choose. Okay, between those three, which one is actually they like the most. Okay, between those three in Mapua. So. The idea is actually like this one. Okay, the objective measures, I did the anthropometric dimensions and chair dimensions. Okay, actually with these two, it's very easy to find, how is it that Ma'am Gumasing, mismatch, right? Yeah, the common term.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
mismatch.
yeah, we can this one mismatch. Okay, objective measures and subjective measure. Oh yeah, I use the subjective comfort because this is actually specific for the chair by Professor Kyung. Okay, is from IGIE, I think. Yeah, IGI, International Journal of Industrial Ergonomics. This is very common, very nice study. Okay, by Professor Kyung. And then another one is actually I did the pairwise comparison to see which one is actually they like the most. Okay. And this is actually the SEM construct. So it's actually like this one. The chair will have an effect on the chair dimensions, and then which subsequently, led to the subjective questionnaires. And their body dimensions, it goes to this one, subjective questionnaires. But this one is actually the thing that you cannot answer in here. It's like, which of this chair is better? If you have like nominal and 1, 2, 3, you don't know which one, right? Ma'am Gumasing? Like this one, you got what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You have 3. If you have 2, you can. For example,
Yes.
like A or B, then if it is positive, then it depends on which one the dummy code. For example, this one, the dummy code is like 1, this is 2. If this is positive, then B is actually have a significant effect. If it is negative, then this one A is actually have But if you have 3, you don't know. This one is actually not that beautiful, but of course this is only was for a conference. So and then this one is actually I have a subjective measure like upper back, lower back, and this is and so on. Okay, this is by Professor Kyung. So this is the simple chair dimensions. Okay, this is very common. And this is actually the subjective measures. Okay, this is actually the comfort scale. And I would like to see the connection, but it was only for 52 participants. Okay, I think Ma'am Gumasing has this kind of study a lot. You can do it actually, Ma'am.
Yeah, did I told you I have data? I think 300 data from senior high school.
Yeah,
we
I think
can use that.
Yeah, we can use that. And if you would like to do, for example, like structural equation modeling of blah blah blah, or like usability of blah, yeah, it's actually okay.
Yeah,
it's actually okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Next
then this
year.
Okay, and this is the anthropometric measures. Yeah, simple one. Okay, and then this is the result that we got from the 52 respondents. Okay, this is the simple one, anthropometric data. And okay, this is the subjective comfort. Okay, from the chair A. Okay, from the chair B and from the chair C. As you can see, like this one is very low, right? So perhaps the chair A, the wooden one, it's like the wooden one is actually quite low, in here. They use 1 to 10, 1 to 10 comfortable scale by Professor Chung, and then this is from chair B, chair G, and this is the subjective comfort. Okay, and this is the overall subjective comfort. See, overall, right? This one is actually the average of everything, the overall rating. And if you can see, even looking at this one, right? Without doing the statistical analysis, that there's a significant difference between this one and this.
Very obvious.
It's very obvious, right? Very, very obvious. That one. And then 2 and 3 is actually no significant difference in terms of the overall subjective comfort. Okay, so if someone say like the problem when someone's like chair B or chair C is much better using the overall rating. In here is actually you can say, oh, overall rating is actually chair C, so the black one is actually much better compared to this red one. But you can actually make it powerful by using the pairwise comparison. Okay, A or B, B or C, is it like you don't know, or or which one is better? If you really force the person to really choose between this one and this one, you can actually see the how is that? You can see actually the result. This is, for example, chair A or chair B. You can see like the one that choose chair B is actually 43. Okay, chair B or chair C. Okay, 20 and then 24. So chair C, it's a little bit slightly higher. So A or C is quite obvious. C is better. But now B or C. See this one, right? B or C. Eventually, the C is still, higher. So is it the same with this one? Yes, it's still the same with this one, the subjective comfort. So it's actually that it's actually linear, or like you can say that, oh yeah, even you test using just the subjective comfort, or you force them to use the preference measure, is still, I would say, support each other. Okay, the result. That's the extra analysis that perhaps let's say Ma'am Gumasing, you can add that one in the future for to make it like more, a little bit more powerful to say answer that one. Oh, this is about I have 52 participants and I have 3 chairs, so the total data 156, but this is only for conference. And then yeah, one professor asked me, oh, which chair is that one? I'm like, oh, I'm just like, yeah, we don't know which chair is this one. But I found that the backrest, the height of the backrest is actually one important key for the subjective comfort. I think telling this one is actually the backrest. I think that makes sense for me. Like when it's a little bit higher, or like it's a little bit taller, it's actually much more comfortable. Okay. And I think the third one is actually has the highest of the backrest height. I think this is one of key, one key that someone will feel that that one is actually comfortable. But anthropometry, this is a little bit low, almost not significant, but still significant. And then stutter height, eye height, shoulder height, elbow height. But what can you see this one, Ma'am Gumasing? I don't feel any issues in here. It's just a model.
It's a good model.
But
It's a good model.
talaga, I don't know.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like you can see like this is the key predictors for the subjective one.
Yeah,
I feel
for
like,
the anthropo, yes.
I feel like
And
this
for
is,
the subjective comfort, or see the left buttock, left
oh, this is good.
thigh.
This is, of
Oh,
course, this is a good
see?
study. This is from a good study. So it's proven, this one. But they don't use SEM. So that's why, like, oh, since I use SEM. but I only like one thing in here is actually this one. The rest for me, I don't know. Since
Yeah, the backrest. See?
yeah, the backrest.
We don't know that backrest will affect the comfort
This
of
is
the
actually,
student.
this is interesting finding that I found. But again, this is just a senior high school work. Sometimes a good idea eventually becomes so like eventually when I look at this one, I'm kind of like, okay. Anyway, we can do much better model later on. Okay, perhaps we can add other things in here. For example, later on you can add, Ma'am Gubas, you can add the lighting, the room temperature. That will be much,
Yeah.
yeah, you can have a very even much bigger, much better model. Okay. Okay, this is the one that I talked about the usability, common usability studies nowadays. This is my own publications, but nowadays there are a lot like this one. They try to connect objective and subjective at the same time using just this one, structural equation modeling. This one is actually the thing that I manipulated. Of course, this is ID, right? Since it's about the Fitts law, you have to manipulate the ID. Okay, you have to, in order to have a straight line, you have to have several dots. And usually the dot is like, the regression is always usually is higher than 0.9. Like the Fitts law, because you already manipulate the ID. The higher ID, the movement time will be higher, of course. Okay. And then this is the thing that I changed. I had 2 environments, one actually 2D and the other one is 3D. Okay. And then we actually would like to see how with the eye behavior and then the symptoms of the discomfort. Okay. This is the final one. Okay. Final slide for today. It's been 1.5 hours. So anything you want to do regarding the usability, remember about this 3, which direction you go, and then which, I would say that what kind of performance measures, even just using the, I would say that ergo chair, or like using some kind of like I don't know, Rula or Reba scores. That is actually quite possible, to try. But I haven't tried that one in postural analysis with these 3 things. I think that can be perhaps, well, Ma'am Gumasing will like it if she.
Okay, I'll think of a topic on usability. I'm interested in this topic.
Yeah, I think this is interesting, but sad that nobody likes the human computer interaction. Maela, you don't want to try Fitts law? I'm going to show you. Not really.
Maybe I can try. Let's see.
Let's see. Okay, but anyway, now it's pandemic. We cannot do it. That's the difficult part. Okay, so when you do the usability test kit, don't forget about those three things. I know everyone in here nowadays. I know at the beginning, kind of like, I was also confused too. At the beginning when I took the usability class, it was 3 units for one term. Sorry, one semester, so 6 months. So this is kind of some kind of like the summary of those 6 months, and then every week like 3 hours in my usability class. Basically, that I can summarize those into this one one PPT. But to testing one by one, I'm going to show hopefully one of a study that utilized this. Okay, so let me stop the share screen and stop the recording.